Okay, so we are going to get started. So hello, everyone. I'm Sam, Creative Director for Rokoko, and welcome to this webinar where we're going to be covering some Reallusion workflow stuff with iClone7, Character Creator, and Cartoon Animator using Rokoko motion capture to drive the characters in those programs. So the first half of the webinar is just going to be me going through kind of a very basic overview of these workflows. We've put out videos on our YouTube before, but I'm just going to kind of go over it from the perspective of showing someone who maybe hasn't really experienced the Reallusion tools and how they work. I'm not going to actually be in a live suit, but I'm going to be using Rokoko motion capture through our studio player, and it's a great, pretty easy workflow to get going. So that's going to be the first half, and then the second half we actually have Kai Denev from Reallusion, who's going to hop on with us, and we're going to be answering questions that you guys put in the Q&As. So feel free to put questions down there in that Q&A panel during the first half and the second half, and we'll be going through them and answering them. And then we also have a bunch of questions that everyone submitted when they were signing up. So lots of stuff to talk about. And that's maybe where we'll be going a little bit deeper into some of these questions. The first half, again, is going to be a pretty broad overview. So it might be things that you've seen before if you've played with these tools before. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into it. Okay. So let me just hit share. Welcome, everyone. We had 87 people here. Super excited to see the questions and just make some cool stuff. Okay. So there we go. I am screen sharing. Things should be looking good. And yes, again, please put your questions into the Q&A. That's where you want to submit any questions or chat. And we have a team in Denmark who are going through and will be answering those. And we're also going to answer them as we keep moving through the presentation. Papo, we were going to get to these questions in the second half. Okay, so as I said before, we are going to be going through how to use Rokoko motion capture with the Reallusion kind of suite of tools. And on screen here, you can see I've got the Reallusion hub. So this is kind of the, basically just the hub, the base of all of my Reallusion products. And so today we're going to be using Cartoon Creator or Character Creator 3, to generate a character. Then we're going to send that character. We're going to make tweak it a little bit, give it some hair and play around with it a little bit. We're going to throw that character into iClone7, which you can do directly. And then we're going to use some of the live plugins, the Motion Live plugin, we're not going to be using Live Face. We're going to be talking about how you get facial motion capture in iClone, and then the Rokoko profile. So these are all kind of the tools that you need to get this workflow running. And we're also releasing a video on our YouTube today, right after this webinar, that kind of runs through the full performance motion capture workflow. So that's using, a live Rokoko smart suit, smart gloves, and then using Reallusion's iPhone facial capture solution to get the full character animation pipeline running. So let's jump into it. So we're going to start, as I said, with Character Creator 3. So this is Reallusion's character generation software. As you can see, generate unlimited 3D characters. And we're just going to let this guy boot up. But the great thing about this, and I just want to make sure that, yeah. Okay. Yes, you should be able to see what's happening on my screen. Freak out a little bit there. So yeah, this is Reallusion's character creation software, and it's awesome. You can get very realistic characters. You can get cartoony characters. You can make like monstery characters. There's a plugin which allows you to input a photo. So if you want to take a photo of someone, of yourself, and then make a character based around that, you can do that. There's a lot of things in this software where you can go super deep and make very unique individual characters that you can then export out to iClone, but you can also export it out to other 3D software. In today's workflow, we're going to be going directly into iClone. So this is kind of what you start with when you open up the program. for our purposes today, I'm basically going to take a base character. So these are one of the kind of starter characters that come with the program. I'm going to be using Caleb. And from Caleb, as you can see, we have muscular Caleb here. We can basically use a lot of morphs to change Caleb's physiology and make him more unique. So you can either, you can buy characters from the Reallusion marketplace. You can generate characters, again, from like a photograph, or you can start with a base character. And what I like to do is start with a base character and then morph them from there. So again, this is Caleb, and you can see if we start making some changes here, I can reduce the influence of the Caleb head. And I have a character named Sean that I got from the Reallusion store that I love, and it gives kind of this cartoony vibe. But just using a bunch of simple sliders, you can get in and make, pretty, very unique looking, interesting looking characters. And because you can go in and you don't have to like physically sculpt anything, like ZBrush style, or I'm not a character like sculptor, right? So this really works for me because it just works off of a bunch of sliders that I can use to change the the attributes of my character. If I want to change the head width or whatever, I can. You can go on endlessly with making these little tweaks. For this, I'm just going to kind of leave it like this because I like just the look of this character. I really like this Sean character. So, we could make more changes. We're going to leave it here for this character for now. And we're going to add some hair. And I'm just going to add this little, we go to group, hair, short blowback. And there are tons of tutorials online for all of these processes. If you want to go and get really deep into Character Creator, we're just going to kind of breeze through it so we can actually get to the mocap part. But here we have some hair. So that was easy enough. Hair looks great. They also have lots of different wardrobe options. So again, you can download or you can buy custom assets from the store and bring them in. So there's some jeans. We're going to throw a little shirt on this guy, tank top, and maybe some shoes, some boots. And there we go. So now our character is clothed, which is always a good thing. And, I am going to actually, so you can go in and change the materials of all this clothing and everything. One thing that I'm going to do is, just because I don't like this, the graphic on the shirt, I'm just going to go into the editor, and I'm not going to actually make any changes to the shirt. I'm just going to load up the appearance editor, which is going to zero out the shirt color. I'm just going to have a white shirt, which is fine. That's kind of what I want. So there we go. Couple clicks. We have a character all set up, ready to go. So from here, you can do a couple things. One, you can export this character out to Blender or Unreal or something. If you wanted to just get into another program and start working with this character, there are ways to do that. And you can, look, I don't know why it's pulling the menu up over here, but it is. We're going to roll with it. But you can just go to export, right, and export in FBX. And then you can pull in that FBX into like one of the other 3D softwares if you want. We're going to stay within Reallusion today. And so instead of exporting in FBX, I'm going to go back to the Reallusion hub, and I'm going to open up iClone7. And so that way, when I send over this character from Character Creator, it's going to just be imported directly into iClone. So I'll let this guy open up. I see we have lots of questions rolling in. We are going to get to those again, everyone, in the second half. So keep putting them in. If they aren't answered by our team in Denmark, we'll be looking at them in the second half of the webinar, and we'll be getting to them. Excuse me, bear with my coffee sounds. Okay, so here we have iClone7. We're all opened up. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna reset the workspace. There we go. And now if I jump back into Character Creator, I can go to Export, Send Character to iClone. And if we jump back into iClone, you can see things are happening, it's thinking, and basically it's pulling in, that character directly into iClone. So there we go. So now we have that character that we just made in iClone ready to receive mocap. So at this point, how do we get our Rokoko mocap onto this character? Well, I'm going to open up Rokoko Studio, and here I have a pre-recorded asset that I made using the Smart Suit Pro and the Smart Gloves. So no facial capture. There isn't support for the Rokoko facial capture currently in Reallusion, but you can use Reallusion solution for facial capture, live face on your iPhone, and it does just as great a job of capturing that facial motion capture. And we'll get into that in a second. First of all, I just want to show you how to get some mocap that you've either pre-recorded, like I have here, using the Smart Suit and the Smart Gloves, or you could have a live suit. I'm not in a live suit right now just because I'm running a webinar and my internet, the Rokoko motion capture system runs off of Wi-Fi, if you don't know. I should speak about that briefly. You can see a suit hanging in the background right there, but essentially when you put on the suit, there are 19 sensors within the suit, and they communicate over Wi-Fi to your computer to get all of this mocap. So if I was in a live suit, I could be driving this character in iClone using my live suit, but there's no difference between a live suit and a pre-recorded asset. And so I often will take a pre-recorded asset and use that to drive the motion capture instead of being in a live suit. So there's disadvantages and advantages to being in a live suit and doing it live, but this is one way to do it, and this works. I like this way. So I've got this pre-recorded asset, and in order to get this motion capture into iClone, you would use one of our live streaming plugins. So I'm in Rokoko Studio, right? I go to start live stream, and we have all these live streaming plugins that are available. And so if we go to the iClone one and we turn that on, and then we hit this little gearbox here, you can see that I have 2 ports that I've set up in Rokoko Studio to export out our data, our motion capture data, right? One port, 14043, is going to be responsible for the body data, and one port, 14045, is going to be responsible for the hand data. So this is kind of the setup in Rokoko Studio that you need in order to get that motion capture out of Studio into iClone. So this is all set up. We're live streaming our data out of Rokoko Studio. At this point, I'm going to leave this running on a loop in the background. And at this point, if we jump into iClone, we can go and open up the Motion Live plugin right here, Motion Live. Drag this guy over here. And as you can see, we have a bunch of profiles kind of already pre-installed, right? So these are the Rokoko Motion Live profiles that you need to get your Rokoko motion capture into iClone. So I'm using the Rokoko, kind of the general Rokoko profile. Reallusion also offers a Smart Glove specific profile. So you can get that if you, for example, you don't have a suit and you just have the Smart Gloves, you can get a profile that will just handle the Smart Gloves. And then you could use, an XSend suit or some other form of mocap for the body data. And we designed the gloves to be hardware agnostic, so they will work with other types of body mocap data. But again, in this case, I'm using the general profile, so this works for both the suit and the glove data. So I was just talking about those ports, right, that we were exporting out of Rokoko Studio, and you can see here that we have some numbers that should look familiar to what we just saw, right? 14043, 14043. These are the 2 ports that will be accepting mocap data from Rokoko Studio. So I need to change the hand one so it matches that second port that we were going out of, 14045, right? So if I go back to Rokoko Studio and just go back into this live stream, you can see up here, and if it's a little, the resolution isn't good, it should pop in, but if you can't see this, it says that we're streaming out to 14043 and 14045, right? And so in iClone, 14043, 14045. So those match. So if we hit this little green light right here, if we get a solid green, it means that everything's working. iClone is sensing the data coming out of Rokoko Studio. And at this point, we can now assign this mocap to our character. So I have my character selected. And then if I just go to the body, I can add Rokoko. If I go to the hand, I can add Rokoko. And at this point, if I hit preview, there we go. We have our conducting mocap coming over to iClone, and everything's working. And so I was kind of talking through it, but really that was just a couple of clicks, right? It's a super quick process to get your mocap out to iClone. And because iClone just runs really fast, it's kind of like a real-time environment, right? You get very little lag between, if any at all, between your mocap in Rokoko Studio and in iClone7. So again, if you're in a live suit, you could be driving this character live and acting it out. If you had maybe an actor in your studio and they were controlling the character while you kind of were making sure everything was running, it's a very clean workflow to get motion capture to a character, and especially to a character that you can generate in Character Creator easily, and you can make multiple characters. And so this is a very clean workflow for getting your mocap out to a character. In addition to that, you can actually record directly to the timeline. So if I go to record and I just start recording, so I'm going to let this guy go through his little conducting motions. Here we go. Now I hit stop and I'll turn off this panel, disconnect from everything. Here we have everything just recorded to our timeline. And so at this point, you can export out this full character to like a Blender, or you can start rendering within iClone. At this point, what's important to note is that you have a fully animated character, right? That just took a couple minutes to get all set up. So I really like this workflow for getting all your mocap onto these Reallusion characters. The other thing that's cool is, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of auto blinking functionality and things like that to give your character some life. We are not using facial mocap, but you still get these cool blinks. And then in addition to that, if you do want to use facial mocap, again, I'm not doing it live because I don't have everything kind of set up to do it right now while we're doing the webinar, but I have this little video. And here I'm using, hopefully you can see this all, this is fine. But here I am using a Rokoko Smart Suit, Smart Gloves to drive the body and the hands. And then I'm using Reallusion's Live Face app to drive the facial motion capture. And so we're going to jump into Cartoon Animator in 1 second and just very briefly go over that. But you can see that you can set up the same thing in Cartoon Animator. So the Cartoon Animator is Reallusion's 2D software, where you can basically puppet 2D characters using 3D motion capture, which is really cool. And again, it works with this live face setup the same way that it basically works in iClone, as you can see with this character right here. And again, we just are dropping a tutorial on this workflow on how to get the facial mocap working with the body and the hands. So that's on our YouTube channel. It's also going to go out in the email to you all after the webinar. And yeah, this workflow is super clean. And again, if you record this to the timeline, you can then export that out to like another software that you might be working in. And as I said before, if you just have the smart gloves, you can use other motion capture hardware to capture your body data. You could even hook up like a Kinect, one of those old school Kinects, and get the body data that way. Use the gloves for the finger motion capture data, and then use the iPhone using a Reallusion solution for the facial motion capture data. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of set up this workflow to get this full performance capture, which again is always body, hands, and face. It's the full character, right? Cool. So this is iClone, and hopefully that wasn't too fast. Again, This will be coming out as a video, so you can review it later if I'm going a little bit fast. But at this point, let's jump into Cartoon Animator. And I just want to quickly show you the workflow in there as well. And I'm going to shut down iClone and open up Cartoon Animator. So again, as I just said, Cartoon Animator 4 is Reallusion's 2D software, and it makes it really easy to, like, if you wanted to say create a character in Adobe Illustrator or something, you could create that character, bring it into this software, and then drive that character using your Rokoko mocap solution, which is really interesting because you're using a 3D motion capture solution, right, to drive a 2D character. And this software is built for all 2D, situations. So you have there's like sample scenes that you can get. Let's just throw in a sample scene right here. Open a project, demo. Now I'm gonna choose a scene, animated beach. So you can make these again in there's even an After Effects button up here. But you can make these in Illustrator and like bring in the layers into Cartoon Animator and have these scenes. If I hit play, like this sample scene is animated, which is really cool. And they also have characters that are already set up for you. So you could go and create your own custom character. In this case, I'm just going to use one of the sample characters. I'm going to use Philip. Let's drag Philip into the scene right here. Not really dressed for the beach, but that's okay. I'm going to make him a little bit bigger. And now, if we go to plugins, Motion Live 2D. So I still have in the background my, let's let this guy run, my conducting animation, right? If we go to Cartoon Animator, it's the same kind of layout, right, as we saw in iClone. So, I just need to make sure that for my Rokoko ports, they match what's in Studio, so that 14043 and then 14045. Remember, you need to make that change. Turn them on. And then if we assign them to our character, it works for the body. Excuse me, but if we assign it the hand, you're going to get this warning because currently we need to, this character doesn't have a bone hand. So we need to add bones to this character's hand. So let's do that really quickly. Going to go into the modify panel here, and I'm not going to move my my window, but it shouldn't block anything. But if we go into the content manager, body, hands, G3, bone hands, they have this bone hand kind of templates already set up for you. So you drag one of these on here, and you're going to see on the see, now we have bones in this hand. So now we can use our glove data that we have in Rokoko Studio. So go back to the normal presentation mode, open up Motion Live again. Boom, boom, boom. Want some green lights here. Click on our character, and then we can assign this mocap to our character. And now if we hit preview, there we go. So now we're driving this character in 2D space using our 3D motion capture in Rokoko Studio. And again, this could be a live suit. And it doesn't have to be a pre-recorded asset. It could be live, and you could be, doing this in real time with the character. And then if you set up the iPhone, you could be using facial motion capture to drive this character's face as well. So, again, this is just, these programs offer a ton of versatility in how you get to that end product, right? You could use their kind of set up sample characters. You could make your own characters. If you want to get deeper into these workflows, you could check out our channel, and there's also tons of stuff on the Reallusion channel that, for workflows for getting all of this stuff working. So that kind of wraps, been about a half an hour. I was actually pretty good, almost to the minute. But that kind of wraps up the workflow that I wanted to go over. And I just wanted to, again, we were just going through really quickly, showing you that it's just a couple clicks to get all of the stuff kind of up and running. Not going too deep. If you want to go deeper, check out those tutorials on YouTube. That's kind of the place to do that. I just wanted to show you how easy it was to get it all up and running. So I'm going to stop my screen share now, and I'm going to cancel this guy. And I'll leave this open for now in case you want to dive back into it. Oh, I just closed it, but okay. Yeah, I'm going to stop my screen share. And at this point, we are going to bring in Kai from Reallusion, and we're going to get into some questions and kind of start answering some of these questions. I'm seeing the Q&A questions coming through, and we have a ton of questions that were again submitted, you know, when you guys signed up. So I am going to ask Kai to unmute and ask him to join me.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Start video. Here he is. Hey Kai.
Oh, there I am.
There he is. Hello, good to see you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. So yes, Kai's office background is amazing, which I you know, is great every time. But yeah, Kai, maybe you could, yeah, maybe you could start with just saying, you know, who you are, what your role is at Reallusion. Yeah, and then we can kind of dive into some questions.
Sure. Well, I'm Kai. I'm a academic sales director at Reallusion. I do a lot of the training and stuff like that. You've probably heard my voice in a number of tutorials if you've watched any of the Reallusion videos. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Training and academic sales, and here to help with whatever Reallusion questions you might have.
Yeah, it's gonna be, yeah, we got a bunch of them. Yeah, and if you're on the Reallusion YouTube you know, channel, I'm sure you'll recognize Kai from all the webinars and tutorials and everything that's on there. And there's so many resources on that. You guys have put out so much content on that YouTube channel that, again, if you like want to go deep, that's the place to start.
You bet.
So cool. I'm just gonna let's kind of dive into it. First of all, maybe we didn't really talk about LiveFace, but LiveFace, maybe you could tell us what LiveFace is, and then I can kind of talk a little bit about it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. LiveFace is using your iPhone for facial motion capture using the depth cam included in your iPhone. Very accurate. We've really worked on that pipeline quite a bit in the last couple of years. So you're going to get very accurate facial capture with the iPhone doing that. You can combine the facial capture with really accurate lip sync. It's actually called AccuLips, the new system we have for lip sync.
Right. Yeah, and there's a bunch of, there's like the you can just record. Isn't there a way just to record audio as well, and then it will build out the facial motion capture, the lip capture from that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of ways to do the lip sync. I mean, you can do the lip sync with your raw motion capture and record the audio at the same time, and that'll just follow exactly what you're doing. But sometimes if you want a bit more, you know, exaggeration or a bit more nuance to your lip sync, you can layer over. You can use the AccuLips application to layer over and get more exaggerated or easier to see lip sync.
Yeah. And there's been a couple questions about making adjustments to the motion capture after it's been recorded. And I didn't get into it, but there are a ton of ways to adjust like the strength properties of the facial motion capture and everything. And there's also another thing that I like about the Reallusion solution is that you can have the tongue. There's like the tongue morph shapes, right, that work as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the tongue in there too. Yeah, that's something you can't really motion capture.
Right. Yeah, which is good because I don't know. Sometimes that that adds a little bit more to the facial motion capture.
Absolutely.
So there was a question about basically adjusting mocap after you've recorded it. So there are tools to do that as well within iClone, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different tools you can adjust after the initial motion capture for sure.
Right. And I think there's like a shoulder adjustment tool, and yeah, there are videos on your guys' YouTube that cover that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, if you go to like the iClone main product page, there's a learn item at the top of the web page, and under there's like all the tutorial videos and listed and everything like that.
Okay,
and also all the playlists on the YouTube channel as well.
that's kind of the place to start with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question from Grant. Is there a way that Cartoon Animator 4 can adjust the hips during a live capture with Rokoko suit? So I'm capturing live and saving directly into Cartoon Animator 4 rather than recording and then importing the mocap later. So that's doing that workflow that we were just doing. So I would think that there is basically in that you would record the motion. Like, how would you handle that? Maybe, Kai.
I mean, if you wanted to have the hips lower, initially what I'd probably do is, when you're doing the capture, you can just lower your hips, I guess, when you're actually capturing. Right. But after you record it, I mean, you can obviously just go to the first frame of the recording and lower your hips at that point, and right. that will last throughout the entire duration of the animation or the capture.
Yeah, and then there's another way that maybe you could do this as well. Because I don't know. I mean, I know the tools are really fleshed out in iClone for making adjustments to recordings like after the fact or before the fact. But there's a way that you can get basically mocap that's recorded in iClone to drive the Cartoon Animator characters, right? What is that feature called?
Yeah, there's a iClone link to Cartoon Animator 4. So basically, when you're like, you can apply any 3D animation to your character in iClone and transfer that over to your 2D character in Cartoon Animator.
Right. Yeah. So that could be a way to do it too. Is you could make the you could like record into iClone maybe, and then you can make the adjustments, and that would be reflected in Cartoon Animator. Maybe that would be too much of a weird workaround, but yeah, hopefully that
it'd be a bit weird, but
yeah,
there's just so many ways to do it to do the same thing, right? So
yeah. Okay, this is an interesting one that I don't know the answer to, but in cartoon or in character creator, is it possible to make your own wardrobe? So how does all that, I guess, get made and applied?
Yeah, so you can create your own clothing easily, sculpting in ZBrush or whatever sculpting program you use.
Okay.
You can import them as OBJs into Character Creator, and it automatically skins it onto your character's mesh.
Oh wow, that's awesome! That's incredible. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like you could probably maybe even get items of clothing from like, buy them from like CG Trader, and then if they're an OBJ, right, it's just a function of bringing them in and getting them all posed up and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. You can buy them from anywhere. We also have a bunch of like content packs in our content store you can purchase as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff on the store, like for, hairstyles and different morphs and stuff like that. So I always appreciate a good store as someone who is, I don't know, I'm not like a sculptor, as I said, and I'm not that, people tend to specialize, I think. And so it's nice that there are a bunch of things that are already set up for me that I don't have to like worry about learning ZBrush to start making my own clothing. If I need a t-shirt, I can just go find one on the store, like a cheap one or whatever.
Oh yeah, we're in the same boat there for sure.
Yeah. Again, as we were saying before the stream started, I don't think either of us can draw. We're those kinds of CG people. Yeah. So there's a question: is there a way to lower the shoulders of the iClone character? They seem kind of up. So yeah, there definitely is. And the two ways that I would go about doing that, and Kai, maybe you can jump in again, is that there is like an official shoulder offset. There's like a bone offset panel that you can find in iClone that can do that. Mm-hmm. But then the other thing you could do is you could just set the T-pose differently, right? You could have your T-pose starting position, just lower the shoulders, and then bring the upper arms up to counteract the collarbone lowering. And I find that's a good way to do it too. Like that's how I end up doing it in Unreal and all those other programs as well.
Yeah, generally just offsetting the T-pose slightly. Certain older models we used to have tended to have that problem where the shoulders would kind of come up, but we've generally solved that with the new CC3 Plus base.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's, I feel like it's a constant issue across programs, is that shoulder bunch up issue that people tend to get where the characters are doing this and maybe the shoulders are back. And generally it's just adjusting that initial T-pose that everything is going to be based off of. But that being said, again, there are like a bunch of easier tools that are like specifically, like if you have your recording and there's intersection between your body and your hands, there's ones that can, like, you can hit a button and it will offset the elbows slightly and things like that.
Mhm.
So you don't always have to adjust the T-pose, which I think is cool. Again, there's just a ton of tools in iClone for doing like adjusting motion capture after the fact, which is something that's
Yeah.
pretty difficult to do in all the other programs. Usually because they're like your facial motion capture will be keyframed. And so you have to add a layer of mocap over those keyframes, which is like, if it's not set up to do it right out of the box, it gets confusing. So I appreciate that.
You can also generate keyframes from your facial capture as well. If you capture the face from mocap, you can generate keyframes and edit those as well.
Right. So you can actually go into like the dope sheet or the graph editor or whatever and like change actual keyframes if you want to say,
Yeah,
make the
you're a real
eyebrow
keener,
really
for sure.
arched up. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just reading through some of these questions. Okay. So how would you sync mocap from 3 different sources from Mads? And I saw a question like this that was about essentially using Rokoko motion capture for like the top of the body and maybe using a pre-recorded asset for the legs. I'm not entirely sure off the bat because I've never tried it, how you would go about doing that, but it definitely is possible. Especially if there are like motion profiles that are offered by Reallusion, right? I don't know if you guys have ever played around with that stuff. I mean, I can kind of talk about
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've
yeah.
been at like places like GDC and stuff. And I think probably one of the weirdest situations we've had is where, one person was wearing the Rokoko suit and a different person was using the iPhone for the facial capture. And then the third person was actually using the Elite motion controller, like the cheap,
Oh,
less
wow.
expensive version. So that like basically 3 people were driving this animation on the same person or on the same character. So.
And so that's just in the Motion Live like panel, right? You just set up those profiles for all the different parts of the body, right? Yeah. So that,
they're all simultaneously streaming into the same character.
Right. And it makes it easy. It's like, I don't, is there a motion builder plugin at all? Do you know? I think you can use 3D Exchange.
Not yet, no.
Okay. Maybe not. But if all those profiles are supported, then you can do it all just within iClone by selecting the different like profiles in that Motion Live plugin. Yeah. And so that's the way that you would do it. Mads.
I like that name, Mads.
I know, of course. Okay, so another anonymous attendee. What are the best Reallusion tools to purchase for these workflows? So there are a lot of different plugins. So I think it depends on, this is, I was looking at the tools earlier, and what I would say is check out the bundles. I think the bundles are a really good place to start with that, because it can be a little overwhelming looking at all the different tools, but there are a bunch of different bundles on the website, on the Reallusion website, like for Rokoko motion capture or whatever it is. And that will list all the plugins that you might need to get all of those together in one place. And so that's how I kind of think about doing that. Other than that, you can get them all piecemeal, which is also good, because if you have different workflows or whatever, that could be good. But I encourage you to look at like the bundles that are on the website. I really liked seeing all those just because it brought everything together in one place. That would be my answer.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming at first.
Yeah, but they're all out there. And again, if you guys ever have any questions or anything, you can certainly put questions in our YouTube videos or on the Reallusion videos, and you should get some answers that way. Okay. Okay, I don't know what that question is, so I'm gonna. Oh, anonymous attendee. This isn't a question, but I love Kai. He's great. So that's nice.
So touched.
Papo saying your mustache has inspired them to buy more Reallusion tools. The mustache is doing work out here. Is doing the sales team work.
Right on.
So this is a question that I don't know the answer for, about, from Wolf. Another cool name. Which bones are affected by the gloves? Is it the same as the motion leap, even the forearms? So I actually don't think it is. I think for the Rokoko gloves, it's just the hands and the digits. So that's the mocap, as far as I know, that you're getting out of the Rokoko gloves. They aren't
Yeah, I believe Rokoko
moving.
gloves is just the hands. Yeah.
It's just the hands. Yeah, I think for the Leap ones, they'll like track your hands in space more. I haven't used
Yeah,
it.
like there's a couple different settings you can set, like forearms and you
Right.
can even set like shoulders and stuff. It'll just kind of guess it based on the movements of your hands.
Yeah.
So
So I think for the Rokoko gloves, it's just that, those digits and the hand motion. Do you also cover from Anthony? Do you also cover faceware on YouTube? I know there are faceware tutorials on your guys' YouTube. We haven't covered it, but
yeah, we support faceware as well.
yeah. I saw the faceware in the list of plugins, and man, the list of plugins is crazy. There's like OptiTrack. There's like volume plugins, and which is like hardcore motion capture. I mean, that's
Yeah.
we're into motion capture a lot, but OptiTrack is a whole nother level. So, okay, this is a good question from Jesus. Is there any device you would recommend to adjust my iPhone in front of my face for facial motion capture? So iPhone helmet mounts essentially is what this question is. I have my answer. Is there any solution that you guys have that you could recommend? There isn't
We don't
one,
have anyone
really.
that. Yeah, we don't really have a single one that we endorse. I mean, we have a lot of people that just kind of jerry rig their own, right? They just take a bike helmet and like a little thing from Walmart and put it on there.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
Some have more
basically
success than others.
Yeah, I found what I do is I will either, if I'm standing, like if you were doing a VTuber situation, you were like sitting at your desk and you were just standing or something, then you just put it on a tripod, like on a Joby.
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
have one next to me, but just like a tripod on your desk. You put the iPhone on that. If you want to have a helmet mount, my recommendation is I mean, the only official helmet mounts for iPhones are incredibly expensive for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it's just, I don't know why, but they're like $1,200 for like the official facial motion capture iPhone helmets, which is a lot of money. And what I do is I take just a bicycle helmet and a selfie stick, and I get zip ties, which are very important to this process. And you just zip tie that selfie stick to the top of your bicycle helmet, and you drop the iPhone route in front of you, and it works great. And you just I think some people will use like string or like Velcro. If you use zip ties, you can get it so that it's really not going to shake at all. And so that's what I would.
And we got MacGyver over here, eh?
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, it's very MacGyvered, but it's fine. It like works. It works super well, and it's a lot better than
absolutely,
paying. Yeah, $1,200, and you just look a little silly, but not even that silly. And then just counterweight the iPhone on the back of the helmet with some more weight, and that way, because iPhones are a little heavy, and you have it out in front of your face, it can get a little harsher in your neck. Okay, from Alan, can you use iPhone with metahumans? And maybe you could just talk about metahumans and iClone and the integration that's going to be happening. I know you guys are working on some tools, right? That's going to be playing with the metahumans.
Yeah, we're launching some metahuman tutorials coming up, I think this week or next week. So we're going to be showing how you can, do mocap with both facial and body mocap with metahumans. It just takes a little bit of messing around with the blueprints, which we will provide with the release of those tutorials. So yeah, absolutely, you can do the facial capture with the metahuman and body capture live in Unreal with Live Link.
That's crazy. That's awesome. So you can get everything. Really, yeah, and it's just nice that it's all contained in like one system before it goes over into Unreal. That's gonna be great, because obviously there's lots of interest in the metahumans these days. So here's a question from Cheyenne. Recently, the Smart Hair Builder was released. I see that the physics work inside of iClone. So this is just a hair question, but will the hair physics be imported over to Blender? I imagine the physics won't, but maybe if you recorded mocap,
you can actually transfer the physics over in Blender as well. You just have to kind of tweak the maps, the weight maps.
Right.
because the physics engines are going to be slightly different. So it takes a little bit of tweaking with the weight maps.
But the hair like generates Blender hair, and then it just works off of the Blender physics engine, I guess.
Yeah, you'd have to kind of customize the. I know for sure that like stuff like clothing, the physics transfers over just fine into Blender, because we have a new Blender plugin as well.
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
somebody was asking about. Yeah, that's awesome, man. The physics transfer over. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you just set up soft body physics on the clothing or something, or how does that work? It just
exactly.
works.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's awesome. Got lots of things to play with after this. Okay, this is a good question from Sarah. How many gigs of RAM would you recommend to run all these programs? My tower is 16, and I was thinking about buying another 16 to have 32. So I will. Well, what is your answer? I have my answer.
I mean, I run it on 8 gigs. 16 obviously is ideal, but
Boom, 8 gigs.
Yeah.
I mean, that I would say 16. I was gonna say if you have the ability to add another, go for it, but don't go over 32, because I think you can see improvements up to 32, but from what I understand, up to 64 is like very edge use case. I don't know. That's a lot of power that you won't need. So if you have 32, more than enough. 16 should be good, or 8 will work as well. So kind
it's
of
your money too, right?
Yeah, I mean, right. There's however much you want to throw into
but
it.
I agree.
So
you won't see much improvement over 16 for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Just going through some of these questions. Thank you for answering for asking, everyone. I'm so happy that we have some questions that we can answer. From Sam, how to make the feet more stable on the floor. So I assume this is kind of a Rokoko question, but it obviously translates over to your mocap in iClone, right? My answer to this, and this is why I like using pre-recorded assets going over into iClone. If you're doing everything live with Rokoko, then you won't be able to use our filter system. And a lot of the filters in Rokoko Studio are built very expressly to help you with things like making your feet contact really stable. The suit is very much, you can get fantastic raw data out of the suit, but it is made to be used with those filters in Rokoko Studio. So if you're, the workflow that I generally recommend is to actually record your assets into Rokoko Studio, apply the filters, so then your feet are stable, you're fixing drift, you're making it look, the mocap really look good, and then you just record that into iClone using the pre-recorded cleaned up asset in Rokoko Studio, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's any feet snapping mocap tools in iClone. I don't think there are.
For foot sliding, it's generally you have to do it manually, like manual keyframe editing afterwards. I just worked on a project actually with someone, independent project using Rokoko as well, and the workflow you described is exactly what we did.
Yeah, I also tend to like that workflow of pre-recording the asset into Rokoko Studio, just because it's nice to have your mocap separate from all your other stuff. Like if I have a character in iClone, I would rather have my mocap not spread out in a bunch of iClone project saves. You know what I mean? And they're just, my mocap is over in Rokoko Studio, my iClone and my character is over in iClone. And that's a little bit cleaner too for me as well. I just find. So I generally do recommend that workflow of pre-recording an asset and then using the pre-recorded asset in iClone. But that's really if you're moving around, right? If you're doing like a VTuber thing and you're just sitting in a chair, then you just do it live and you just put the camera not on the feet, and that's kind of the workaround there. Good. Tim is saying he used the zip tie solution for his his facial mocap rig as well. Okay, so this is one from Rick. When capturing real-time facial animation using iClone and Faceware, so this is Faceware. I can't speak for Faceware. There's some lag sometimes. What can be done to eliminate that? And from what I know, the iPhone, and it even says it on the Reallusion site, it's recommended that you use the Ethernet right? The
Yeah.
hardwired cable to eliminate that lag. So over Wi-Fi, there might be some lag. In the live face plugin, I've actually had very little lag, if really no lag, over just Wi-Fi. I don't know if there's a difference. Maybe FaceWare is a little bit more intensive.
I've never had a lagging problem with FaceWare. I mean, then again, I've always used it with integrated webcams, like into the laptop and stuff. But I guess
with
if you have
with the cable, right?
yeah, with the cable, yeah.
Yeah, with the cable, there should be no lag. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure how he's using it. With
Well,
the
if you're
cable or
just
not,
using
but
it just over Wi-Fi and maybe you have like YouTube or something playing 8K videos on the same Wi-Fi network, like you're going to be eating up bandwidth. So, you know, that the solution basically is use the Ethernet to your iPhone solution, plug it in, hardline, and then put it on your desk, and that should be great.
yeah, there's some troubleshooting in the help files as well too.
Yeah,
for FaceWare
right.
stuff. Yeah.
Always check out the YouTube and everything for more help there. So from anonymous attendee, to clarify, iClone face capture. iClone face capture requires the 3D model to have the 51 Apple blend shapes. It actually does not require it using the Reallusion live face, the Reallusion facial capture solution. You guys just added all the ARKit blend shapes, I think, right? In the new Expression Plus update.
Yeah, EX Plus, it's all in there, yeah.
Right. So they're all in there now, but from what I understand, like the way I've used that is you can now export out a character from Character Creator that will have the Apple ARKit blend shapes in them. If you're using it in iClone, you don't really have to worry about that because the iClone and Reallusion facial motion capture solutions, they just work out of the box with those Character Creator characters. So
yeah, all the ARKit stuff is integrated already into the new characters.
Right, but it's nice if you want to export a character and do it in Blender. Those blend shapes come with that character now. You go into Unity or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just looking through these questions, we're getting to the end. Can you provide YouTube channel links in the Q&A field? That was answered. Thank you by Nicholas. Open. Okay, so some more coming in here. Any information on Unreal 5 just got asked, but yeah, that you can use the what is the plugin for Unreal, the Live Link.
Unreal Live Link.
Unreal Live Link. Yeah, you just use Unreal Live Link, and it all goes over into Unreal. So if you Alexander is asking if you need the body mocap and the glove mocap. If you have a suit and gloves, you just need the body mocap profile, and that will include the gloves. If you just have the gloves, you can get just the glove profile. So that's kind of how that breaks out. So if you have a smart suit and smart gloves, get the body mocap profile. Cool. Okay, I'm going to go up to the pre-submitted. I haven't been looking at a lot of these, but I remember there's some good ones. A personal question I had for you, Kai, was, do you have a favorite? What is something that has made your, what do you like, a tip or a trick for iClone that you like the most? I don't know. Is there anything that you, navigation wise, that do you set up your maybe your interface in a certain way? Do you have multiple setups of layouts or something? I don't know. Is there any, you've been working with Reallusion tools for 10 years. What would you tell yourself from 5 years ago to make your Reallusion life easier, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I'm pretty basic when it comes to layouts. I mean, I'm not really creative. I just stick with the default, to be honest. I know it's pretty boring, but yeah, I don't bother messing around too much. I know there's people that are out there like, oh, I have to have it my way and stuff. But yeah, for me, I guess, learning the hotkeys for sure improves things, and navigation for sure in the viewport. That's super important. Basically, those two will save you tons and tons and tons of time. In any software, especially like something like Blender, for example. If you don't know the hotkeys in Blender, you're almost screwed at the beginning. So
yeah, and Blender's hotkeys are There's a lot of them.
Mhm.
Yeah. So here's a question that was submitted. What do I need hardware wise to get the facial tracking going? So Rokoko's facial capture solution and Reallusion's, for both of them, you need an iPhone 10 plus or higher. Basically an iPhone with the true depth sensor, right? Yeah.
Yeah. 10 or higher. Yeah.
Any iPhone that lets you do animojis, which is what they developed the AR kit for. They bought up that company and developed the animojis for us all. Any iPhone that can run those animojis, that's using the AR kit in the background to do that. So it's a 10 plus or higher. So the 11, the 12 should all work. I think it works with the iPads too. I haven't tried it, but yeah.
Yeah, iPads, certain iPads work. Yeah.
Yeah, the iPad Pro, I'm sure works with it. Okay. Final couple questions as we come to the end here. Thank you again, everyone, for sticking around and for asking these questions. Hopefully this has been useful to everyone. So there's a question about streaming characters in basically retargeting to characters in Unity. This isn't as much of an iClone thing, but we are going to have a Rokoko Studio update that's going to come out sometime in the next 6 months. And basically you will be able to take a character creator character, export an FBX or any character, put that into Rokoko Studio and drive that in Rokoko Studio as well. So we're going to have a couple solutions that should make that easier as well. If you're in Unity, let's say, and you didn't want to be doing all of the mocap in Unity, you could export your character from Character Creator, bring it into Rokoko Studio, do it there. You could also do that in iClone. So that's kind of an answer there. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Last couple questions, looking for a good one. Bear with me. So this is one that I don't know, Character Creator on Macs. Is there any plan for that? I don't know if there is.
On Macs, you mean like 3ds
yeah.
Macs?
No, Mac computers.
Oh, on Mac, no.
Okay.
No, unfortunately not in the near future, no.
Yeah. I mean, that's invest in PC, everyone. That's what I learned a long time ago. But yeah, not right now. Okay, I mean, yeah, I think we can kind of leave it there. I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about as we kind of draw to an end, Kai.
No
advice for people
I mean,
who are getting into it. I mean, there's lots of trials. I encourage you to go trial the trials, which is really great.
Yeah, 30-day trials downloadable from the website.
Yeah. So the nice thing is you can actually get the Rokoko software for free as well, and it comes with sample animations. So you could download, if you want to test out this whole workflow for yourself, you could download our software. It would have sample animations. You could download the trials from Reallusion, play with all these tools before you buy and make sure everything's working for you. And so I always recommend using the trials just before you get deep into anything, and just make sure that it's going to fit your workflows and kind of what you're thinking. We will be posting this webinar on our YouTube channel. And as I said before, we just dropped a video that covers the full performance workflow for Character Creator to iClone and then with Cartoon Animator. So check that out. As I've been saying, there is so much content on the Reallusion website where you will hear Kai's beautiful voice guiding you through all the workflows. Yep. You'll be able to hear the mustache through the microphone. So there's lots of resources out there for all this stuff if you want to get deep. And then definitely on our video that we're dropping, if you have any questions about this stuff, about anything, how to get it set up, what plugins to use, put it in the questions below that video, and we'll get on there and answer those. Yeah, thank you so much, Kai, for joining. I think this was really great. And
anytime. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, super fun. Hopefully we'll be doing some more of these in the future, especially I know there's so much interest in the in the MetaHuman setup, but maybe you know, maybe we'll do another one of these at some point as more tools come out, and you know, you can.
Absolutely.
Character Creator has stuff happening all the time, and you could just go endlessly. You know, we could play around with that stuff endlessly. So maybe we'll do another one of those.
Next time we'll have a 10-hour webinar marathon. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll just do a 10-hour webinar marathon, and everyone, you know, we'll just have a because
order
we could.
pizza.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good. Actually, it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna call it right there. Thank you all for joining. This was great, and thank you for answering or submitting your questions. You know, check the YouTube channel to see this video again, and you know, yeah, stay tuned for more updates. Hope you're all doing well as we begin to reemerge. Knock on wood on that one. And yeah, Kai, thanks so much. We're gonna log off there. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Sam.
No
Take
worries.
care, guys. Bye.
See y'all. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.